There are times in life when jokes, quips, and silly little things just cannot hold true to the emotions that you're truly feeling. This is one of those times. But I want you to remember that above everything, hope endures. Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, Jake of the OneManBand is back again, and welcome to another RWBY episodic review. This time, we're taking a look at the finale of Volume 3, The End of the Beginning. And this title for the episode makes a lot of sense in many ways. It is indeed the end of, I think, the beginning of RWBY as an entire series. Think of it, up to this point, we've really had nothing dark enter the story. It wasn't until halfway into Volume 3 that it started to take that serious dark turn. And now, we have established characters, we have an established world, and we have an established antagonist and a goal for our heroes to strive towards. So in many ways, this is the beginning of the end. And with every end, we do indeed have to say goodbye to many a good things. But we also have to greet new and broader things. But let's get on to the episode. So, it starts out with what I've been waiting to see for a very long time. The Battle of the Gods is what I dub it. The fight between Cinder and Ozpin. And for the most part, the fight between them doesn't last all that long. We don't get to see that much screen time of it, which kind of disappointed me because I definitely want to see more of Ozpin's fighting style. But with the little bit that I was able to see, I was able to break it down and dissect it a lot. So we see that Cinder is truly tapping into every ounce of her seasonal maiden power now that she has every single last amount because Amber is now dead. And even though she seems to use her maiden powers more, especially more now, she still uses her blades to attack Ozpin directly. It isn't until she sees that he pretty much outmatches her in melee combat that she switches to a ranged tactic. It seems that Ozpin has more than just one special ability. He's fast enough to destroy every projectile that Cinder throws at him, and fast enough to hit her, I don't know, in like a 50 hit combo in like 2 seconds. So he definitely has super speed. But he also has a form of bubble shield that he uses to encase himself when Cinder shoots fire at him. Now, are either one of these powers his semblance? I have no idea. Just due to the fact that Ozpin is such a mysterious character, and that some people will believe, oh, well maybe he's immortal, or oh, he's the wizard from The Wizard of Oz. Not the Wizard of Oz, from the old story of the Four Maidens. Well, technically is from the Wizard of Oz, and now I'm just confusing people. But anyway, there's a lot of mystery even now behind Ozpin's identity, so we cannot pin semblance on either one of these powers. I personally think that both of them are magical derived powers due to the fact that he is the wizard from the Four Maidens story. Or at least connected to him in some way, to the point where he would have some form of magical ability. And something else that I want to bring up is Ozpin's weapon. Now, it didn't seem to unfold, transform, or have any special properties, but the way that he uses it is something that is very, very key. Now, if you look at it, you see that there's no blades, no sharp points in it, no explosive areas, no dust infusion anywhere. It seems to be pretty much just a cane, a stick with a clockwork mechanism in the handle. And that's why I think it's so important. You see, Ozpin's weapon is not to kill. His weapon, his cane, is not meant to kill things, and is meant to either disarm or disable an opponent. One of the things I think Ozpin may have been trying to do when he went in for that, like, 50-hit combo, is maybe he was trying to hit Cinder so much that she would be, her energy would be drained, and she would be pretty much disarmed by it. Maybe he was trying to hit pressure points or some sort of vital area. It seemed very much so that Ozpin wasn't trying to kill Cinder, but trying to pacify her. Now, whether that be true or he really was trying to kill her remains to be seen. And this fight ends with Ozpin charging at Cinder as he's encased in his bubble shield. Another big thing to note is that his bubble shield can move with him. So that's something very important that we should look out for and think about. Meanwhile, outside in Beacon Academy, the Academy is being evacuated, and we see that Professor Port and Professor Oobleck are seeing over the evacuation process. See, I told you guys they weren't dead, even though you probably agreed with me on many points there. But they obviously escaped the arena and then came to Beacon to help with the evacuation process. So this tells me that Crow was able to get himself and the Atlas military to Beacon so that they can aid in this evacuation. Professor Oobleck even says to listen to the Atlas personnel. So this means that Crow most likely is on Beacon Academy campus at this time. But the importance of this I'll bring up later. Everybody at Beacon Academy is being evacuated to the safe zone in Vale. So Vale, the kingdom itself, has been secured. And now the main attack seems to be happening at Beacon Academy, which makes sense since it is the place where the CCT tower is located. And that is definitely one of the main targets of this attack. And soon, RWBY is able to rejoin with her friends, and we see that Zwei is also there. Maybe when he was running around with Yang, once he saw Weiss, he decided to stay with her, since Weiss and Zwei instantly had a connection when they first met. I mean, that's just a possibility, and it makes sense, I think, in the most part. So even though Weiss seems to have recovered a little bit from her exhaustion, she's still able to fight, and so is RWBY. But there are still plenty of wounded. Nora, Ren, Blake, Yang, they're all wounded and definitely cannot stand the fight for any longer. They need to be evacuated to Vale to seek medical attention. And we see here the scene that made all the Bumblebee shippers go crazy. Blake is holding Yang's hand, just repeating and repeating, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." Now, as I stated before in my earlier review of the last episode, is that Blake blames herself for what's happened to Yang. That's obvious. And she's gonna carry that blame with her, probably until her and Yang, make nice and, forgive one another, but she is completely just broken down mentally by Yang's condition. But something that really is big is that RWBY takes her sister's condition quite well. I mean, she doesn't break down crying or go into a rage or anything. She simply just seems to be in a bit of shock when she sees that her sister is wounded and, well, missing an arm. But it's probably due to Sun's comment that she's gonna be evacuated, the medics are gonna get to her, she's gonna be fine, that probably kept RWBY from going over the edge. It seems that Sun Wukong is the one, along with Weiss, who is watching over the wounded huntsmen and huntresses, the students. And I'm not sure where the rest of his team is at. Maybe they've already evacuated and he decided to stay behind until RWBY was found. I mean, that makes sense to me since they're such good friends. But he seems to be the smart one of the group. He's saying, we gotta get out of here, we gotta retreat. And even though Nora and Ren are against the idea because Pyrrha and John are still missing, and I understand their commitment to their team, I wouldn't want to leave my friends behind either. But Sun is definitely thinking logically. He knows that we have to retreat, we have to fall back, live to fight another day, because this day is lost. He knows that. Sun is a smart person, and he knows that the best course of action is to retreat, lick our wounds, and figure out what to do next when we are at a greater amount of strength. So I think Sun is definitely going to be a more leader-like, militaristic leader in the future volumes. But we'll have to wait and see how they're going to depict him in the future volumes. So, the Huntsmen are evacuating Beacon, the Grimm are overcoming it, the Grim Dragon is circling the CCT Tower, and even the White Fang are pulling out. So, we don't have to worry about Adam right now, which is fine, because Adam's a dick, and nobody likes him. Now, since Pyrrha and John are both missing, Ren and Nora definitely want to go out to find them, but both of them are in pretty bad condition, and I actually noticed something very small that I think is very important. If you look at Ren's guns, the blades on his guns, the pointed tips at the very end, they seem to be missing. Now, either it could have been a mistake on the animator's parts, maybe they retract, but I haven't ever seen that before, or his blades were broken off at some point during the battle. That goes to show how much Ren was fighting during this battle. And to have his weapons be broken, I mean, they might not even work anymore properly. I mean, I'm not sure how his pistols actually function, but the stabbing bits of his blades are gone. They're probably embedded in some dead Grimm somewhere. So due to Ren and Nora not being able to go out and find their teammates, RWBY says that she'll do it. She'll find them and bring them back. Now the main reason she's doing this is because she witnessed Penny get killed. She has seen Yang and Blake, her teammates, bleeding out, wounded, and dying right there on the ground. She does not want one more person that she cares about to die. She is willing to throw her own life away for the sake of saving someone else. That's what makes her a hero. That's what makes her a leader. And since Weiss is such an awesome person, she won't let RWBY do this alone. She's gonna need help. So Weiss decides to go with her. And Sun decides to well, he probably doesn't decide. He's pretty much forced to stay behind, and he probably looks after the wounded members of the teams and Zwei. Because Zwei must survive over everything else. Because he is a cute dog. We then see what's been keeping Jean and Pyrrha for so long. They're finally exiting the CCT tower. Now Jean instantly is just like, okay, we gotta call for help. We gotta help Ozpin. So he immediately goes to call Glenda. And Pyrrha hears the battle raging on between Cinder and Ozpin. But then it goes quiet. And Cinder now is blasting her way to the top of the CCT. Now my question is, how did she take Ozpin down? And I think it's probably the most important thing, well, one of the most important things in this episode, is that we didn't see him get taken down. Because we don't truly know, did Cinder truly do it? Did Ozpin maybe submit? Or was it maybe someone else who made him submit? I mean, these are questions, but I don't think Ozpin would have been taken down that quick, even by someone as powerful as Cinder. I mean, because you saw him in the fight. He was holding his own against her. So upon noticing that Ozpin has been defeated, Pyrrha knows that it is Cinder's target to take out the CCT, and she can't have that happen. Pyrrha makes the mental decision that she is going to go and hold Cinder off for as long as she can. Now, this may be attributed to her whole aspect of how she believes in destiny. She believes she is destined to be a huntress and protect the world. And what better way to protect it than to take down this evil that is trying to cut off communication for all of the world. That's destiny right there. Of course, Jean won't have it. He won't let her go. And so she does the one thing that she can to stop him from stopping her. We finally get the Arcos kiss that we have been waiting for 3 freaking volumes. And I was as giddy as a schoolgirl when I saw it. If you saw my reaction video to this episode, You saw how I reacted. But of course, this just puts Jean in a state of shock and a state of weakness. She then uses her semblance to shove him into a rocket-propelled locker and then send him flying away. Because now he definitely cannot stop her, because he's off flying towards Vale. She tells Jean, get to Vale, tell Good Witch to send people here. I'm gonna stay and hold her off, pretty much. So Pyrrha goes into the CCT, channels her inner Magneto, and shoots the elevator up to the very top in order to stop Cinder. Now, something that should really be taken in consideration is the fact that you can transport yourself in these rocket-propelled lockers very quickly. RWBY was able to get to the airship rather quickly, and Jean pretty much gets to Vale in a matter of seconds in the video, which is probably minutes in real life. But still, that's like faster than an airship. I mean, why haven't we been using these rocket-propelled lockers the whole time? Because they're not safe? I think we should be using them for everything. We could get to and from places in like seconds. But I'm getting distracted. Upon Jean's landing in Vale, he instantly calls the people that he knows that he can trust. I mean, he probably tries to call Ren and Nora, but they're both out of the fight. And so then he probably calls Weiss and RWBY, knowing that they are then going toward the CCT, probably based on information that he gathered from Ren and Nora. And he tells them that they need to get to the top to help Pyrrha, stop Cinder, but mostly help Pyrrha, okay? She just kissed me, okay? There's reasons why she needs to be saved. And we see here Jean breaking down in emotion. I mean, he probably doesn't even know what to think anymore. I mean, with what Pyrrha just did to him, both kissing him and sending him to Vale, he's probably going through a whirlwind of emotions, and no wonder he just breaks down. I feel for you, Johnny boy. I feel for you. Now, Weiss and RWBY both agree that they're gonna go and help Pyrrha. Unfortunately, there's a Grim Dragon and an army of Grimm standing in their way, so they got a bit of fighting to do. Meanwhile, in Ozpin's office at the top of the CCT, Cinder has finally arrived, and the dragon crawls up to the very top to look inside, to where we see that Cinder seems to communicate with this being, with the Grim Dragon. And the Grim Dragon does not attack her, and it seems to even listen to her. So everybody's theories about Cinder being able to control the Grimm seems pretty solid right now. She's at least able to communicate with this dragon Grimm to a point where it understands her. She tells it that this is its home now. Beacon is its home. And if you know anything about dragons, it will sit on its treasure forever and defend it with tooth, claw, and flame. Now, Beacon, it's its treasure now. And soon, Pyrrha arrives for the fight of the century. Not really, but it's a good fight. Now, for the most part, the fight pretty much goes as we expected. There's lots of, there's combat on both sides. Pyrrha is even actually able to get a few hits on Cinder. But for the most part, Pyrrha's outmatched. We have a seasonal maiden going up against, although a very skilled fighter, but a fighter who is still very young in her career. But I think some of the biggest shocks of this fight is the fact that Cinder is able to grab hold of Pyrrha's blade without it cutting her. She seems to be able to stop it, and that may be just because of her aura, but it's still very shocking to see somebody full on grab a sword and not flinch away, no blood runs. It's just unnerving. It shows it's depicting this person as immortal, unkillable. If it doesn't bleed, we cannot kill it. Now, for a second, it actually looks like Pyrrha gets the upper hand. Pyrrha gets Cinder in a chokehold and has the blade coming toward her, with Cinder keeping the blade away with her hands. And then she starts to work her seasonal maiden magic and begins to melt the blade. Now, Pyrrha obviously could have felt that happening, but the Grim Dragon then gets off of its perch on the CCT and starts to fly towards it. This distracts Pyrrha. Pyrrha no longer is focused on Cinder, but on the dragon. And that is the moment of weakness. That is when Cinder full-blown breaks Pyrrha's blade and is able to get out of her chokehold. And the Grim Dragon also takes off the ceiling of the CCT. Now pretty much weaponless, all she has left is her shield, which for the most part is a defensive weapon, although it can be used offensively. Pyrrha has no choice but to use her semblance. And as we know, using a semblance uses up one's aura. So the fact that she's using her semblance so much, she is weakening her protection against Cinder. But she's pretty much out of options at this point. And through using her semblance, she's actually able to get a lot of good hits on Cinder. She's hits her with pieces of debris from the CCT, and she uses those gears that made the clockwork mechanism in Ozpin's office. She uses them as grinders and crushers on Cinder. But Cinder doesn't bat an eye. Nothing seems to be able to phase her, let alone stop her. Meanwhile, down below, Weiss and RWBY are still having a very hard time to try to get to the CCT. So, they pull out a tactic that they used during their fight with the giant Nevermore back in Volume 1. Weiss creates, I guess you can call them running or sticky glyphs on the side of the CCT, to which RWBY then uses to run straight up its side. Now, due to the ferocity of Cinder's last attacks, Pyrrha's aura is completely spent, and pretty much all she has to defend herself now is her basic armor and her shield. But since she has no more aura, she probably can't use her semblance anymore, so her only real weapon is her shield. So, Cinder prepares an arrow, to which Pyrrha thrusts her shield at the arrow. And they make contact, but it seems that not only Cinder's projectiles, but her arrows as well, which could be counted as her projectiles, are able to not only break apart, but reforge themselves afterwards. So far, we've only seen her be able to make projectiles and then fling them. We haven't seen them break apart and then be reused. So, it's another layer to Cinder's power that we now know about. But it's here that we see the Achilles heel shot on Pyrrha with the arrow. Now, she's based off of Achilles. Her inspiration is Achilles. So this was definitely a sign that Pyrrha is in a bad place. She has been wounded greatly, because that's a very important part of the body. You hit that, you ain't gonna walk correctly for the rest of your life. Now with Pyrrha pretty much out of the picture and wounded, Sierra proceeds to tell her that she was foolish to think that this seasonal maiden's power was hers, and that Cinder will use it to a much greater extent and to do much greater things with it, more than Pyrrha would have ever done. To which Pyrrha retorts, "Do you believe in destiny?" Now, what's most important here is not only the fact that Pyrrha says that, but the way that Cinder reacts. If you look at her, she seems to be angered when she hears Pyrrha mention destiny. Now, maybe it's due to the fact that Cinder has pretty much acquired this power because she took destiny into her own hands by stealing the power from Amber. Or maybe it's that her destiny, Cinder's destiny, is actually one that leads to ruin. And she knows it, but she doesn't want to accept it. Which is strange because Cinder actually replies to Pyrrha with a yes. That she does believe in destiny. But she still seems to be angered by the notion that Pyrrha mentioned it. I don't know, it's something to think about. And it is time to mention the heartbreaking, tear-jerking, just shock-inducing segment of the episode. Pyrrha's death. Now, even after watching the episode, I was literally shaking in shock due to just watching this. Even after I watched it later to get all this information and write down notes, when that scene came up, I visibly shook just due to the shock that it caused. we are taking a main character, a beloved main character, mind you, and full-blown killing them in front of the audience. Now, Cinder does shoot her straight in the chest, but that doesn't seem to be the killing blow, or at least it doesn't kill her right out. It isn't until Cinder walks up to her and touches her that Pyrrha finally slumps. But then something strange happens. Pyrrha seems to be burned away. Now, this may be due to the fact that Cinder is using her seasonal maiden powers to burn Pyrrha's very existence away, but then why would the headdress be left behind? I don't know. Is there some form of importance in that headdress? Because the rest of Pyrrha's clothes burn away. Another thought is that perhaps Pyrrha was being absorbed. Her power was being absorbed into Cinder. Remember, Cinder had her on some form of list, and we do not know what that list truly is. But then, who knows? Maybe this is the way people actually die on Remnant. Maybe they just full-blown fade away. Remember, this is the first biological death that we have witnessed. Penny was a robot, she got eviscerated, she stayed there. Roman, he died pretty much off screen. We didn't see his demise. But Pyrrha's, we see up close and personal. So, it's either she was burned away by Cinder, she was absorbed by Cinder, like her soul, or this is actually how biological death happens. And it is here that we see RWBY witnessed Pyrrha's death. And this is what truly sends her over the edge. She has seen another one of her friends die. And it's Super Saiyan, pretty much. But aura envelops from her eyes and seems to overshadow the Grim Dragon and Cinder. And Cinder herself is completely flat out surprised to see this happen. She doesn't know where this is coming from. And then it all fades to white. And with that, guys, I have to apologize, but this is the end of part 1 of my RWBY Volume 3 finale review. I mean, it was 28 episodes long, and this first part was full of so many things that I just had to flat out make it into 2 parts. For my sake and for yours. This will allow me to work on one half, get it out to you guys, and then work on the second half. But don't worry, it's all gonna work out fine. And so with that, I'm gonna have to end this episode here. Next part is gonna be coming out soon, probably in a couple days. I mean, just give me time to edit the video together, get it all right, and more RWBY videos are gonna be coming out to you. It's just, with the shock and awe of this finale, it may take a little bit of time for my Valentine's Day special to come out. Just to tell you guys, it may take a little bit longer, but it will still come. So, be sure to like and favorite if you've enjoyed, subscribe of course if you feel inclined to, and go ahead, check out Team Theory, my Facebook group, if you have crackpot theories about RWBY, about anything really, and you just want to discuss it with people, or if you just want to be around like-minded people, then go there, I'll add you, it's fine. And if you also want to check something else out, check out my Patreon page if you wish to support me monetarily, or at least check it out. And I have to give awesome thanks to every one of my sponsors on Patreon, and big awesome super special thanks to Grant Allen Hill, Duncan Ischler, and Kyle Schultz. You guys are awesome. I love you, and I hope you stick around. And of course, check out some other videos that I've done. I do plenty of them on RWBY, and I'll see you guys next time I'm out there in YouTube land. Be a good person, tip your waitresses, keep moving forward, as Monty Ulm said, and with this finale, you definitely need to hang tough.